Welcome to CES 2014. I'm Lamore Schaffman here for RCR Wireless. Joining me is Michelle Leyden Li of Qualcomm. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So Qualcomm has all kinds of very fascinating, exciting announcements happening in the past, this show and also in December. Bring us up to date. What's new?
Well, we have a couple things that are new, and we're really excited about it. Specifically for our Snapdragon processors. As you know, we have a very wide portfolio of processors going from everything from entry-level smartphones all the way up to high-end smartphones and tablets and other segments that I'll talk about. So back in November, we announced our latest and greatest Snapdragon 805. This is our flagship product for premium smartphones and tablets. In fact, we're demoing it here today at the booth. The greatest thing about this processor, it's really what we call our Ultra HD processor, which means it can do Ultra HD 4K video, pre and post processing. You can record and you can play back in Ultra HD, and it also has native support for display. So 4K displays coming to tablets, which is just awesome. The other thing that we've done with this processor, we've actually upgraded our graphics capability. We have our Adreno 420 graphics, so you're going to get really visually stunning graphics for gaming, for graphical user interfaces, and for other things that you want to see visually.
And that's 32 and 64-bit?
No, that one is actually a 32-bit processor. We announced, though, in December, our Snapdragon 410 processor, which is actually our processor that supports both 32-bit and 64-bit capability on the CPU side. But as you know, Snapdragon is a system on chip. So in addition to a CPU, we have a GPU, we have a video engine, we have a DSP, we have all these other great processing capabilities on the chip itself. And with the Snapdragon 410, that is focused primarily for high-volume smartphones. So this is really with smartphones becoming sort of for the masses. So it's meant to really hit a great price point for people who want to go from a feature phone to a smartphone, and we're going to drive 4G LTE with that. So that Snapdragon 410 will have integrated 4G LTE Category 4, which is 150 megabits per second, which is amazing. So we're super excited about that part, and that is, as I said, both 32-bit and 64-bit capable.
That's great. So fast, more content, faster processing, more efficient, lower battery life, perhaps?
Absolutely. Battery life is actually critical for us. Everything that we do is about low power. So we want to give consumers the best possible battery life. We also want to make sure that the device itself is thermally managed, because inside of your smartphone or your tablet, there's really no way to cool that. So we don't want anything on that board to be affected by temperature. So we're going to keep that as cool as possible from a processor perspective.
Right. And then at the show, you've had two announcements here. Why don't you tell us about those?
Sure. We had two really exciting announcements. So in addition to smartphones and tablets, we're actually taking our mobile capability and expanding it out into other markets. We announced the Snapdragon 802 processor, which is actually our first processor specifically designed for smart TVs, set-top boxes, and digital media adapters. And with that one, we've integrated a really cool capability called Hollywood Quality Video that's specifically for TVs. So you're going to get great video, great movies, really theater quality experience on a smart TV.
Fantastic. And the last one is with regard to automotive, I believe.
That's right. We announced our Snapdragon 602A, which is our first automotive grade part, and it's really for infotainment within the car.
Wonderful. And we do have a separate interview with one of your people from that team on that, so I welcome and invite everyone that's looking at us here at RCR Wireless to check out our YouTube channel for that interview. So going back to these chips, very exciting, everything, but you know, a lot of people, it's a crowded marketplace, a lot of people are doing it. So NVIDIA just came out with this very interesting Tegra K1 chip. How does that compare with what you guys are doing?
Well, you know, you're right. It is a crowded market. There's a lot of competition. We actually welcome that. It keeps us on our toes. It makes us innovate. And I think at the end of the day, that makes it better for consumers. So I can't talk specifically about somebody else's processor or product, but what I can tell you is we're very excited about our Snapdragon line. And the difference really is that we approach our Snapdragon processors a little bit differently than others do. We really approach them from a mobile lens. And what I mean by that is we really ensure that when we do our products, we want the absolute best performance at the lowest possible power. We're not willing to trade off any of those. We're not willing to trade off performance for power or power for performance. We must have both. If you look at others in the industry that sort of approach maybe more from a PC lens, power wasn't always something that was interesting from a PC standpoint. You could plug it in, you had unlimited power. You also have the ability to cool, put a fan, a heat sink, and so forth. We just don't have that luxury in these devices. We really want to make sure that when we integrate all of the technologies on this chip, we're doing it for the best performance at the lowest possible power. We think that's better in the long run for consumers, and we're going to continue to focus on that.
Okay, but I am going to ask you about one other competitor, just because I need to. So MediaTek has come out with their octa-core, and they're saying that processor is more powerful than Snapdragon and at a lower price point. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm glad actually you brought that up. Again, we approach our architecture a little bit differently than others in the industry. I think when you hear people talk about octa-core, what they mean is octa-core CPU. Snapdragon isn't just a CPU. It's processor for camera. We have a sensor processing. We have a modem for wireless WAN. We have Wi-Fi integrated. We have GPS and navigation integrated. We have a lot of processing capability on this chip. Why is that important? Because when you do that, you have lots of options of where you place the processing. So we don't just have to rely on having more CPU cores. We have lots of other processing pieces. And when we do all of those pieces ourselves and we tightly integrate them, and then we layer firmware and software on top of that, we are able to then manage the processing across that entire platform so we get the best possible performance at the lowest possible power. Could we add more cores? CPU cores, that is? Absolutely. We do it a little bit differently, though. We don't just add cores. We do it in a way that we're the most efficient. So really a different philosophy.
Sounds like it's more integrated, not just parsing out things one by one.
That's right. It's very highly integrated, and because we do all the pieces ourselves, can very tightly integrate it and just make it a better overall performing chip.
Wonderful. So now looking forward, first of all, any special announcements with companies, deals, anything you can share with us that's kind of exciting?
You know I can't talk about anything that's not announced, so no, darn it.
I thought I'd try.
But stay tuned. We're going to have a lot of exciting stuff here at the show and coming this year, so please stay tuned.
Wonderful. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us here at RCR Wireless. Stay tuned for more from the show floor.